Yes. He is the most passionate Vikings fan we know. A man who studies college football film, correctly predicts Vikings draft picks at a questionably high rate. He is Randy in Cottage Grove.
Football.
Randy Vikes 69 on Twitter if you would like to follow him. How are you feeling on this Victory Tuesday, Randy?
Good, great. Anytime you can go in versus a Dan Campbell led operation and come out with a W, it's a test of your mettle, as they say, and we passed.
Yeah, that's when I think of ultimate tests in the NFL. I also, Judd, think of a Dan Campbell team as being the bar.
Yeah, it was a character win, is what that was.
No question about it. Big win, big win. It's weird, Randy, because a lot of fans on the post-game show were very upset. They were down on the team. They didn't think they played well. And the vent line crew all agreed a win is a win, and you're going to win games at times like that. So in this case, I think we're all on your side. It was a W.
It was a domination and a good win, and definitely, those Campbell squads, as I said, they're going to put a lot of people on notice this year. But we let them get a little action, get a little sniff of the taste, but then we finally put it on ice, and that's what good teams do. Green Bay couldn't come in here and get a W. Detroit couldn't either. So it's the toughest place to play in the NFL. We got the noisiest fans in there. So I hear. I'm still not allowed to go, but we had fun at the bar too, and we were really loud. We were super loud.
It's good. Hey, did you? I don't know if you observed this, but I'm a little worried about Greg Joseph. But they had some speculation that the doors being open at the end of the stadium may have been causing some wind gusts. I guess I'm wondering, just sort of in your football musings, if you feel like maybe we should close the doors at the end of the stadium for the next game.
That's an interesting angle. I thought he just was kind of yanking it a little bit, just kind of yank it on those, kind of sailed it off a little bit, but that's possible. It's possible. I heard a lot of Detroit receivers kind of bitching that the sun was in their eyes. Well, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
Put some sunglasses on. I mean, it's not that hard.
Oh, eye black.
That stadium is one of the things that's genius about it is the way that it incorporates the elements. Even though it's indoors, you can have a little wind, you can have a little sun. People kind of tend to make it what they want to make it. So, Josephs has a problem with that. He can go talk to facilities management or who are the physical plant people there. Just say, hey, why don't you go ahead and put a little extra grease on those doors so they stay nice and tight on Sunday. And that's fine.
I think we should open those doors in December and January. I'm told that would be a problem, and like the pipes might freeze, and it would cause some major damage.
Don't. And the fans would be very upset. But besides that,
they would know in advance. You would just, hey, we're gonna have the doors open here. It's January 1st, and we want an advantage.
Let's get some snow in there too. Why don't we?
To tell you this about Joseph, though, he was so good last year, and it pains me that I don't get to put him in the stable this week because, a lot of people say, well, he missed those field goals. He didn't miss those. We would have been in the driver's seat the whole game. Well, that's what Greg, look on the bright side. You got the win, okay? You got the win, and we're 2-1. We're looking ahead, and I don't think this team's gonna drop another game for a few weeks here. It's gonna be a nice little run. You're gonna look back and you're gonna say that run started with a win over Dan Campbell, and he's a tough customer. He knows how to get his teams amped up. So KOC, I saw you after the game. Snapping off a lot of F-bombs. We all liked it, and it was great. And you maybe need to do that more during the game and before the game, and kind of get that tough attitude, really just injected in all these guys, so they know that you're coming in our house. You're our house.
I would say, and we'll get to the stud stable here in a second. It felt natural. I was kind of, when I saw some people saying, "Oh, look at these dropping F-bombs in the post-game, celebration." I'm like, oh, is he forcing them? Because you don't want to force them, right? They need to sound natural, as if throughout. Not that you're dropping F-bombs every other word or anything, but
I am.
Well,
But
okay.
please don't hear.
Well, so you're
Not
an
at-
expert then.
not
Did
at school,
did the
but I
F
do at
bombs
the bar.
sound? Did they sound natural from Kevin O'Connell then?
Yeah, he sound like a tough guy, like a guy who he'll mess you up. You might say, "Oh, he's a pretty boy. He's a quarterback." What the ladies like him.
He is a pretty boy.
He looks great, but you can still find a way to end up in an alley with a guy like that. And if he's snapping him off that at the rate, the clips that he could, he'll put you on your ass. KOC could knock you on your ass.
He's a back alley guy. He's a foxhole guy. He's a back alley guy. All right.
He's a hell of
He's
a
a
fighter.
tough guy. And he just went toe to toe with Campbell. He's going to look back in his first year of coaching. I guarantee you that'll be a game that he remembers to stare down Dan Campbell and come out with the W.
If I were Kevin O'Connell, I know he's got to call plays, but I wouldn't break eye contact the entire game with Dan Campbell just to show him who's boss. I would stare him down for 3 hours on the other sideline. Let him know you're there.
That's the kind of guy Campbell is he makes his presence known, and his players would run through a wall for him.
Well, should we get to the stable here, Randy?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, this week 3 stud stable by Randy Vikes 69, Randy and Cottage Grove, is presented by our friends at Chill Boys. Gentlemen, the most comfortable underwear you are ever going to put on. And if you have suffered from jock itch in your past,
Tinea cruris.
Okay, sorry, tinea cruris.
Yeah,
is the medical name
condition
for it. I can't guarantee that Chill Boys will eradicate your jock itch or your tinea cruris, but it sure can't hurt to try. I have thrown out all of my non-Chill Boys underwear. Long underwear season is on the horizon. It is a glorious time to be wearing Chill Boys.
Socks, hoodies, everything from our friends at Chill Boys.
Chill Boys is a Minnesota-based company. You can find them online at chillboys.com. All right, here it is. Randy and Cottage Grove's Week 3
Football.
Viking stud stable.
Thank you. Okay, so this is Week 3 as against the Lions. There was a home game, and from what I understand, this next game in Sunday is going to go across the pond, and we're going to have to get the bar to open up early. But if it goes like it did this week, they won't have a problem with that because we'll be running up some big time tabs. And when you're getting tutty shots and sack shots and now pick shots is a new one they're doing. We're gonna run up a tab in a real hurry. We're gonna grease the skids and we're gonna get a lot of food in our system and we're gonna roll to 3-1. But this is about celebrating the 2, which is the second victory. And here's three studs I'm very pleased for. Number 1 stud. This is the stud who's his second appearance in the stable this year, and he's been a real nice addition so far. He had a couple of moments early in the game where I said, you got to get your head right. But I think he was just kind of he looked across the sidelines and he sees that Campbell there puts a fear in a lot of guys, but he came out all right. He made some big plays late. And Zalarius Smith, you are once again a
hilarious.
Zalarius back in the stable.
He was hurt, stayed in the game.
He's a tough guy.
Woo.
This is the super stud is a guy who they again had a kind of a late pop in that game and really helped put it over the top. And I'm talking about KJ Osborne. KJ, you showed up when we needed it most, and they can double, triple, quadruple J Jets. But it doesn't matter because that means you're going to be flying open and just walking into the end zone with the game winner. And KJ, you are a super stud.
Yeah.
And
hard to disagree with that one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Here's a excuse me.
Sorry.
Finally, here's a guy who.
This is like the Manning cast from last night.
Yeah.
The 7-second delay with Jimmy Johnson.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Yeah. Go ahead, Coach.
No, you go ahead.
Coach,
no,
go ahead. Coach, go ahead.
When you're good at motivating people, sometimes you're good at motivating even people on the other sideline. And some humans know how to just get the best performance out of everyone because they want to prove it to you that they're good. And for a lot of the game, this guy's players were doing a good job. They even looked like they might come into the toughest place to play and sneak out with the victory. But it turns out, at the end of the day, this guy also had a lot of Vikings wanting to put him on notice about how hard they play when they know he's watching. And that's a guy who speaks football. He breathes football, and he is an absolute legend. And I love the way he coaches. And if he's ever cut loose by the Lions, you better sign him, Ziggy. You better get him here in a big time role because he knows. And this is the super duper stud. And it's a guy named Dan Campbell.
Oh, Dan. Okay.
Wait.
So Dan Campbell, his mere presence motivated Vikings players to want to show Dan Campbell how hard they play football. I buy it. I'm here for that. I never thought of it that way. I was thinking more like, he makes a dumb decision to kick a field goal late, and that's why he would be the super duper stud. I had never thought of it the way that Randy presented it, so it makes some sense.
Why am I not surprised that he loves Man Campbell?
They-
I should have known that Randy would absolutely have a man crush on Dan Campbell.
It does seem like they might come from the same family tree.
Have they been seen together?
No, that's
Could Randy, Vikes
fair
69, be Dan Campbell?
actually, when you hear Randy speak, and we have seen Randy. He showed up once at the state fair in Zubas and a Percy Harvin jersey, and I think some Vikings themed shoes, if I'm not mistaken.
We saw him briefly, yes.
So we know that he's not Dan Campbell, but if you just listen to his voice and then you saw a picture of Dan Campbell, you would say, "Oh yeah, yep, that matches."
And then he ran away.
Yes, he did.
Football.
Amazing. So all right, there's your stud stable from Randy Vikes 69 here. Boys, I just pulled up the Vikings schedule for fun because we did like 3 or 4 different iterations of picking the schedule before the season.
Yep.
But even the one we picked 3 or 4 days before the season started, we said you're going to find out a lot more a month or two into the season about some of these teams on your schedule. I think just in the first 3 games, I think you say, well, that Philadelphia game, Philadelphia is a lot better than maybe you thought. Mm-hmm. Detroit's probably better than a lot of people thought going into the season. I just want to go through this schedule and get your thoughts on how much harder or easier is it going forward based on what you know about the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. So the Vikings are 2-1 right now. In fact, I think we should just pick the schedule. Let's just fly through the schedule here.
Wow.
I just want to get your I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your thoughts.
I was not prepared
Wow,
for
I was
this.
not prepared for this.
Want to get your thoughts, okay?
My thoughts are meandering
God.
throughout my
Okay.
brain right now. Go ahead.
Okay. London
Yeah.
against New Orleans. I think this is actually a slightly easier game than maybe a month ago.
This game has never scared me. If you're going to send Jameis Winston out, I mean, yes, he's going to make some nice throws, but he is going to throw picks. I actually, so as far as the schedule to date goes, the Green Bay game surprised me, but the Packers had a lot of guys out that we didn't expect probably. The Philadelphia game, you're exactly right, Phil. Way tougher than I thought. The Detroit game, about what I thought. Tough, but they at the end, Dan Campbell, Lions. So I would say the Saints game, for me personally, the exact same. It's a win. It might not be by a ton, but I like the Vikings more than I like these Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a win. I mean, Jameis Winston has 2 fractured vertebrae in his back,
You got to play.
and
better
he's
than-
like still playing. I don't understand why he's
The Vikings have
playing.
gotten no pressure on quarterbacks this year, so maybe he'll have a recovery week.
I don't know. I mean, at the same time, he has 2 fractures in his back, so they might just end up paralyzing him if they actually do get the pressure. So,
this
so
got dark
I-
schedule picking.
I'm just saying, I don't understand why there's a quarterback playing with 2 fractured vertebrae. I mean, I know it's football, but
yeah,
good lord,
because it's football, Declan.
And I think
it's a win.
It's
a win, though.
It's an easier game than before. I'm keeping track here, by the way, so don't worry. I do think that the home against Chicago game is about the same, where they're bad, but they have won 2 games. The travel thing makes me really nervous. So I had this as a loss before the season, just a trap game loss, weird travel week. The game is about the same on paper. I'm going to stick with loss for that Chicago game.
No, I think they win that game.
Road weary.
But the Bears just beat the Texans, and the Texans don't belong in the National Football League.
Well, they beat the Niners too.
In a monsoon.
Okay.
The Niners beat them if it's not a monsoon.
Both teams had to play in the same conditions.
Yeah, but it was just luck.
I originally had the Bears game as a loss because I thought the Vikings were going to go out to a 4-0 start. and then they would get it on a trap game at home against the Bears. But looking at how the Bears have played, even regardless of them also being 2-1, no, this is a win at home. This will be a win, and it'll be a win.
In Chicago, I'd be more concerned, by the way. Way more concerned.
The at Miami game
L.
is a lot harder on paper than you thought a month ago.
It's a loss.
Right?
Let's just give it the loss.
L. Okay.
Yeah, that's a tough game.
Yeah, it's probably a loss. Okay, then you get a bye. That home against Arizona game actually looks easier, I think, than it did a month ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, yes, but here's my question. Your defense, where's your defense at by that game? Because Kyler Murray, I mean, he can single-handedly beat you with his ability to run and find receivers. I think it's a W, but I would also like to know, coming off the bye, where does Ed Donatel have this defense at? Because the defense does concern me a bit, especially against a guy like Kyler.
Okay.
But I do think it's a W. I just think it's. I got more questions about that game than the 3 games above it.
I have to check if that's a Call of Duty Double XP weekend, but I think that this is a win.
It's unbelievable.
We should check that, actually.
Yeah.
Can we find
I'll do
out?
some digging. Yep, I'll do some digging. I'll see if that's a COD. Sometimes they don't really tell you until the week before to get a little more excited. They don't just put it out on weekends. So I'll double check as we get closer, in a few weeks from now, if that's a COD Double XP weekend. If it is, automatic win. If it's not, yeah, Kyler Murray is a human joystick, so he might end up just slicing and dicing your defense. But it's a win right now.
On Trenches with Boone last night on Purple Daily, he said flat out, I would not have given Kyler Murray that money. If you have to give him that money and also say, and we needed to work really hard and stop playing video games, then you should probably just not give him the money.
Yep.
Start over. Okay, the at Washington game never looked like a super tough game. It looks a little easier, I think, on paper now. There's still the whole Kirk Cousins going back to his former, his former team thing. It's a win. The game is probably a neutral compared to what it was a month ago in terms of strength.
I forget where I landed on this game last time, but yeah, Carson Wentz looks so
stinks.
bad.
He's a
he
train
looks
wreck, dude.
so
He's
bad
terrible. He's gonna
that
get benched.
so I would have more concern if I thought that the Commanders' quarterback could exploit this defense, because I mean it's certainly shown that it's exploitable, but I don't think Carson Wentz can. I do think Kirk Cousins might melt down, but I'm going to give this a win now, because I'm going to change a game very close to this one from a win to a loss, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, it's a win. Carson Wentz is bad.
Okay.
He's no longer good.
How's he
He's just not good.
He's just awful.
He really has never been the same since he got hurt when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and they were wise to move on. I saw Terry McLaurin at a bar in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago, 2 days before the season opener, drinking red wine. I don't go up to. It's not my thing. Everyone's did you go up and say hi? I don't do that.
Carson
I like him to
Wentz
be in
sucks.
peace. Well, I thought he was drinking because his quarterback was Carson Wentz.
You should have said that.
That's
Can I buy
what
you
I
another?
thought. I didn't want to do that, but he was enjoying himself. He had his entourage with him. But
When's the last time a
R.I.P.
Washington quarterback didn't make you want to drink? Mark Rippon for 5 minutes in 1991.
Theismann?
Yeah, they've had a really
Theismann was
questionable group
damn
of
good.
quarterbacks. Yeah. At Buffalo, that game looks every bit as hard
Yeah.
as it did a month ago.
Yeah,
on
when
Solar,
it was
right?
him.
Probably a loss.
That would
Loss.
be it. Yes.
Let's see what else we got here. Home against Dallas.
Yeah.
Dak will be back by then. Maybe that's actually bad for the Cowboys. I don't know.
Or will he? Or will he? If
Cooper
they
Rush?
remain hot, you might have a decision there. In a Jerry Jones-led franchise, I'm changing that to a loss.
Okay.
I'm changing that to a
I love how
very-
you're trying to think back to the way that you picked the schedule before, because
Cooper Rush still starting at quarterback in that game. You know what? That dude is really comfortable in Kellen Moore's system. Really comfortable.
So that's a loss for you. That game looks about to me it's a win. I think it's a game where a lot of the players on that Vikings roster remember what happened last year, and they don't want to suffer the same fate at home against the Cowboys. So I think some of those guys will have it on their mind. Declan?
I have it as a loss still. I had it as a loss originally. I have it as a loss for right now. I think the Vikings will win the majority of their games at home, There's going to be one game on the schedule they fall, and I don't think it's against teams like the Colts. I don't think it's a team against like the Giants or the Jets. I think this is one of those rare home losses, so they will lose at Dallas.
Home against New England, short week Thanksgiving.
I'm changing this from a loss to a win. Mac Jones, back or not? High ankle sprains are very difficult. It sounds like there might be a disagreement on how the Patriots want to handle things and how Mac Jones's camp does. Brian Hoyer starting at quarterback. The Patriots far more of a mess than I expected. This is now a W in my world.
Mm-hmm. It's a W. It's also a W just because I am so thankful, pun intended, that we get a Thanksgiving night game at home.
Oh, that's great.
I really cannot stress enough how jacked I am to end one of my favorite holidays with football of my own team. So I'm very happy for that.
This feels like a classic Kirk Cousins letdown game, but I don't, and so I do think he will struggle in this game, but I don't know how New England scores points.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, are they going to win 16-10 or something? So I think it's, oh my God. My gut says that they're going to lose one of these home games down the stretch here. So I will say, I'll say this is a win for now. But this is a very coin flip. This feels like an ugly game where Kirk struggles, but the Patriots can't score. Home against the Jets, that game is just as easy as we thought it was a month ago, right?
Yeah.
Win. Okay.
Yep.
That brings us to at Detroit, a game that looks harder than a month ago before the season started.
Yeah, I'm going to call this a loss now. It's a tough game, road game. Detroit is going to, I think, be probably more inspired by what happened here on Sunday. So I'm going to give that an L.
Yeah, it's a loss. I think with how well they played the Vikings, honestly, the last two matchups. Like the Lions should have won obviously last week. They beat them at home. Yeah, they've been in every single one. I think the Vikings do drop this game.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think the Lions play the Vikings very tough, and I think they're going to get one of these games. They are obviously already lost one, so I'm going to go loss there. Okay, home against Indianapolis. Now, they did beat the Chiefs this last weekend to kind of keep their season afloat, but it's very rickety right now in Indianapolis.
So that game, which completely throws me off because the Colts looked absolutely putrid and getting shut out in Jacksonville the week before the Chiefs win. Because this game is at US Bank Stadium, I'm going win. I think if it was on the road, I might go loss, but because it's home, I'm going Vikings win.
Yeah.
You know, it's so weird because the Colts have had like a bajillion different quarterbacks since Andrew Luck suddenly retired, and yet we're always like still thinking the Colts are this sleeper team. And I don't know if it's because Peyton Manning was there for so long and Andrew Luck was then there because he was a prodigy as well, but they don't really do anything for me. But everyone still kind of thinks the Colts, oh, look out for the Colts. And they basically waltzed their way out of the playoff picture last year. All they had to do was win one of those two games. It's a win for me at home. I don't buy this Colts team.
Okay. That brings us to a home game against the feisty New York Giants. 2-1 New York Giants. I don't know what they're going to be on Christmas Eve, but
God.
I'll say this too.
Yeah.
This game looks harder on paper than it did a month ago, but not way harder, not like Miami harder. And it wraps up the home schedule for the Vikings, and it's really hard to not give the Vikings, like, they play 9 home games. It's really hard not to give them 7 or 8 home wins. Right?
I agree with that. And I'll go win. If Daniel Jones is starting at quarterback on the road for your team, I don't like your team. I just don't like him. I just don't like him. I don't think he's any good. I don't think he's good. So like the Giants aren't a bad team, and if Saquon is still healthy at this point, he could certainly give you problems because it's not like the Vikings have shown they can stop the run. But dude, you got Danny Dimes. I can't do it. It's a win.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a win at home. Easy win at home. No problem.
Yeah, it's a win for me too, which means I have one home loss to the Bears because I think they're going to lose a game. It's somewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys
with that.
have them losing to Dallas.
Yep.
I don't think there's a lot of home games that they're going to lose. I just really don't.
Yeah, they should feast on this home schedule. And then at Green Bay on New Year's Day.
That's a loss to me.
That game looks harder now than it did after they beat the Packers in week 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're going to split. I can't go sweep. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We're going to go loss across the board there.
Yeah, it's a loss to me too.
All right.
And then the last game of the season at Chicago, a game that looks about the same as it did a month ago to this point.
So I think if the way that I'm playing it out, I think I've got them with enough wins to have probably clinched a playoff spot by now, and they might have actually secured a spot. So I will actually say loss, because I think this is a game where they would sit a bunch of players, because he will sit guys immediately.
So they may have lost the division to Green Bay in week
And I've got them with a
17.
bunch of wins. So like I think that their fate might be locked up by this point. So, and O'Connell I don't think is going to screw around with, well, I'll play Dalvin for a while and Kirk for a while. And
Yeah.
so I think it's a loss, because I don't think they're going to play guys.
If this game matters, it's a win. If
Yep.
this game doesn't matter, it's probably a loss.
I'm
I
going
think
with
this game will matter, because I have
Okay.
we all have them on 10 wins going into this game.
Okay.
In which case, I think if you're at 10 wins, I don't see how it is an irrelevant game for you. You're either playing for the division at that point or jockeying for wild card positioning, etc. So I have them winning, and I still have them at 11 wins.
Okay.
Yep.
Judd still has them at 10 wins.
Yeah, I also will have at 11 wins, but I just have flipped the week 17-18 results so far.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just landed. Some games are harder, some games are easier, but we all landed, I think, on the exact same prediction we had preseason, which is Declan and I have them at 11.
Yeah.
Judd has them at 10.
The Colts and Giants games in December to me are very much, though, I still don't know, because like those teams could be completely off the charts bad by then or good. Like once we get to December now, aside from the Jets, it's really hard. Like I'm still in that the identity's not established yet of those teams. I feel like I'm good through October for sure now, but beyond that, it's really difficult to know.
Yep. This is, man, starting 2-1, because the more you stare at this schedule, I'm not going to say it's easy, because there's so much parity in the NFL, even when it looks like, even when you're like a 6-point favorite, the games are close. But the home slate that they have, they really should win 7 or 8 home games. And then that means you only need like 3 road wins or neutral site wins the rest of the season to get to 10. So, yeah, this thing should, if they can just get to the bye 4-2 or even 3-3. If let's say they lose 2 of their next 3. Let's say they lose to New Orleans and Miami or whatever the combination is. You're 3-3, and people are going to be kind of pissed because it's going to look like they're sputtering. But then you come out of the bye, and you've got all these home games against bad teams. You have road games against Washington, Detroit, and Chicago, which are all games you're probably going to be favored in. So, yeah, it's a 10 or 11 wins is kind of staring at you right now.
That Detroit win is going to potentially end up being enormous.
Yes, for tiebreaker
Like, it's
purposes in your division.
It's such a big win. It's such a big win, and you know what? Come December or January, ain't nobody going to say, yeah, but do you remember that Lions win was really ugly?
No, it might have, it might have preserved at least the momentum of your season here. So there it is. All right, we just picked the schedule. Just impromptu, just like that. Still have the Vikings at 11 and 10 wins.
Dex and I were put in the spot.
I know. I didn't think we were going to do that either. It just kind of, at first I was like, let's go through some of the games and see if some of these are harder or easier. Well, let's just go through the games. So there you go. All right, boys. Tomorrow is a Write That Down Wednesday on Mackey and Judd and on Purple Daily. Over on Purple Daily, go check out our daily flagship show, Purple Daily, and also Before We Die with Jesse and Thor, Realistic Randy Rants, and Trenches with Alex Boone, all available for your listening and viewing pleasure. We'll see you guys tomorrow.